The hum of modern technology first echoed in silent, sacred halls. Ancient monasteries were the true cradles of technological miracles that built our world. These were not just places of prayer but secret powerhouses of invention, where faith and science merged to achieve the impossible. By the end of this journey, you will see the entire history of innovation in a new and startling light. We will uncover how monks commanded water with complex machinery and built the first mechanical computers from wood and gears. Their forgotten breakthroughs laid the very foundation for everything from modern industry to the devices you use today. What do you believe is possible when discipline meets boundless curiosity? These technological miracles were not magic, but masterpieces of human ingenuity that reshaped entire landscapes. Think of a breakthrough so profound it felt like a divine gift, a tangible solution to a problem that had plagued humanity for centuries. In the rigorous world of the monastery, a technological miracle was defined by three key qualities. First was sheer complexity, the creation of a multi-step mechanical system far ahead of its time. Second was its measurable impact, dramatically improving how communities farmed, built, or recorded knowledge. And third was the conceptual leap, an idea so revolutionary it shattered previous limits of what people believed was possible. Historian Dr. Elena Vance describes monasteries as the research and development centers of the medieval world, where the relentless pursuit of divine order manifested in earthly invention. This was not science for its own sake, but a sacred duty to improve the human condition. A new type of watermill that could grind grain for an entire region was a miracle. A clock that could track the stars as well as the hours was a miracle. These were the foundational achievements that powered progress, and with this framework in mind, we can truly begin our journey into the heart of these silent, revolutionary workshops. White-robed Cistercian monks did not simply build near rivers, they redesigned the very landscapes around them. Their abbeys became the beating hearts of vast, water-powered industrial complexes, humming with an energy that was both sacred and mechanical. At the heart of this revolution was Clervox Abbey in France, a marvel of systematic engineering. The monks there constructed an intricate network of canals and aqueducts that acted like artificial arteries, channeling water with breathtaking precision. This water did not just turn a single mill, it powered a coordinated symphony of industry, driving massive water wheels that operated forges for metalworking, mills for grinding grain, and even automated trip hammers for a process called fulling, which thickened and cleaned woven cloth. This liberation of human labor from repetitive, physically demanding tasks was not an accidental benefit, it was the entire point. The Cistercian philosophy saw the disciplined application of physics as a form of worship, a way to use God's gift of water to improve the human condition and free the mind for higher pursuits. Their technological zeal was driven by a profound belief that harnessing nature for the common good was a sacred duty. This systematic blueprint, perfected in silent abbeys across Europe, would become the foundational model for the factories of the future. The quiet devotion of these monks did not just power their own workshops, it laid the hydraulic groundwork for the industrial revolutions to come, proving that faith could indeed move more than mountains, it could move entire rivers. The serene silence of Rievaulx Abbey was broken by the roar of fire and the rhythmic rush of water. Nestled in a remote Yorkshire valley, this community of Cistercian monks became masters of a transformative craft, early metallurgy. They did not merely pray in their secluded home, they turned it into a powerhouse of industry, uncovering rich seams of ironstone right in their own backyard. With devout precision, they built sophisticated furnaces known as Bloomeries, harnessing the relentless flow of the river Rye. Water wheels drove massive bellows, creating infernos so hot they achieved temperatures once believed to be the domain of myth. This was not just fire, it was controlled, sacred heat, purifying raw ore into wrought iron of exceptional strength and purity. The quality of their metal became legendary, a vital commodity shipped across northern England for tools that farmed the land, nails that held buildings together, and even the weaponry that defined kingdoms. The scale of their operation is what truly stuns the modern mind. Archaeological evidence points to a level of production that would rival secular foundries centuries later. Rievaulx stands as a powerful testament to a forgotten truth, that a spiritual community in a remote valley could become an economic and technological hub, fueling progress without ever abandoning its sacred purpose. From the tangible power of forged iron, our journey now turns to a different kind of power altogether, the power to measure time itself. While the Cistercians mastered the raw power of water and iron, a different kind of revolution was being drafted on parchment. In a Swiss monastery around the year 820, a single sheet of vellum presented a vision of such profound order it would echo for a millennium. This was the plan of St. Gall, and it was far more than an architectural drawing. It was a sophisticated algorithm for a perfect society, a complete blueprint for a self-sufficient technological ecosystem encoded in ink and prayer. Every element of this imagined monastery was meticulously placed according to a master logic. Precise rectangles marked out spaces for herb gardens, breweries, stables, and workshops, all interconnected by covered walkways and strategic water channels. The plan did not just show where to build walls, it dictated the flow of life itself. It prescribed how water would move from source to kitchen, infirmary, and brewery, ensuring both cleanliness and function. It positioned the granaries and bakeries for efficient workflow, and it isolated the noisy forges and chicken coops to maintain the cloister's peace. This was a system where the waste from one process, like ashes from the hearth, could become a resource for another, like fertilizing the gardens. Scholars now see this as a breathtakingly early form of systems thinking, a holistic design where every part supported the whole, maximizing both spiritual harmony and physical sustainability. The genius of the St. Gall plan was its conceptual leap, the idea that a community itself could be engineered like a machine for living, dedicated equally to God and to human progress. This grand vision on parchment would soon inspire monks to build tangible, breathtaking machines that measured the heavens themselves. The heartbeat of Christchurch, Canterbury, was a symphony of water and brass. Here, a team of monks engineered a water clock of such breathtaking complexity, it was less a timepiece and more a mechanical brain for the entire monastery. Its purpose was to orchestrate the sacred rhythm of the divine office, the 8 canonical hours of prayer that structured monastic life, but this was no simple dripping vessel. It was a true automaton, a system of carefully calibrated gears driven by the steady, regulated flow of water. At the appointed hour, its mechanism would trigger hammers to strike bells, calling the community to prayer with a consistency no human sun watcher could ever match. The clock did more than just sound the hours, it displayed the movements of the stars and planets, connecting the earthly schedule to the celestial dance above. This was timekeeping as an act of devotion, a technological prayer for perfect order. The engineering behind it revealed a mastery of hydraulic principles and mechanical design that would not be surpassed for centuries. The constant, gentle flow of water had to be perfectly controlled to move the gears at a uniform pace, a problem of physics the monks solved with ingenious reservoirs and valves. Their drive for punctuality was both spiritual and practical, a need to synchronize hundreds of lives into a single, harmonious existence. This relentless quest to measure and manage time, born within the cloister, would ultimately give us the very tools of modern science. And just as these monks perfected the technology of time, they were also pioneering the revolutionary technology of words. High in the Italian Apennines, a different kind of engine was humming, one powered not by water but by the quiet, relentless scratch of a quill. Bobbio Abbey became a fortress for the written word, and its Scriptorium was its most vital workshop. Here, the monks engineered a revolution in information technology, transforming the act of copying into a sophisticated science of preservation. They were not mere scribes, they were master chemists and material scientists, experimenting tirelessly to produce inks of unparalleled depth and permanence. They refined the arduous process of preparing parchment, treating animal skins to create a smoother, more durable writing surface that could withstand the centuries. Their innovations even extended to the very structure of the book itself, pioneering new binding styles that protected the precious pages within. The ultimate testament to their skill is the Bobbio Orosius, a breathtaking manuscript that stands as a masterpiece of early medieval engineering. Its vibrant inks remain starkly legible, its pages intact, a physical artifact of their technical triumph. This was systematic production on an industrial scale, a de facto publishing house that operated for hundreds of years. The Scriptorium's output was a bulwark against the dark, ensuring the survival of irreplaceable classical texts by authors like Plato and Aristotle, alongside foundational Christian works. By perfecting the book, the monks of Bobbio guaranteed the intellectual continuity of Europe, creating a distributed network of knowledge that would one day ignite the Renaissance. In saving the wisdom of the past, they performed a quiet miracle, proving that the most powerful technology is sometimes the one that gives a voice to the ages. And just as these scribes harnessed the power of ink, other monastic pioneers were learning to harness the far more turbulent power of the earth itself. The relentless Atlantic tides that isolated Mont Saint-Michel became its greatest source of power. Perched on its rocky island, the Abbey faced a constant struggle for self-sufficiency, a challenge the monks met with breathtaking ingenuity. They did not just build walls against the sea, they built a partnership with it, constructing a monumental tidal mill. This was not a simple water wheel turned by a steady river. It was a machine designed to master the ocean's own rhythm, harnessing the immense twice-daily pulse of the tides to grind grain. The engineering problem was profound. A normal mill only works with water flowing in one direction. Here, the flow reversed completely with each tidal cycle. The monks solved this with a brilliant mechanism, likely using a system of sluice gates and a holding pond. They would capture the incoming tide in a large reservoir, then release the stored water through the mill's wheel as the tide receded, creating a consistent, powerful, and predictable flow of energy. This was sustainable power on a grand scale, centuries before the term was ever coined. The mill powered the monastery's massive bakery, ensuring bread for the entire community, and its surplus became a vital economic and social resource for the pilgrims and villagers on the mainland. Mont Saint-Michel stands as a timeless lesson in turning constraint into creativity, proving that the most limiting environments can spark the most liberated thinking. This deep understanding of natural forces, from the power of water to the chemistry of the earth, was a hallmark of monastic science. The same systematic genius that designed the perfect monastery also engineered the very plants that grew within its walls. At St. Gall, the monks transformed their cloisters into a living laboratory of botanical technology, cultivating not just food but sophisticated medicine. Their medicinal herb gardens were far more than simple plots of earth. They were early experiments in hydroponic and controlled environment agriculture. An intricate network of irrigation channels, fed by the same master water system that powered the Abbey, did not merely provide water, it delivered a carefully managed, nutrient-rich solution directly to the roots of precious plants. This direct feeding system accelerated growth and increased the potency of herbs like sage and rosemary, which were vital for the monastery's infirmary. But the true innovation lay in defying the harsh alpine climate. The monks constructed heated walls and sheltered beds that captured and retained the sun's warmth, creating microclimates that extended the growing season for months. These were, in effect, some of the world's first functional greenhouses, allowing them to cultivate plants native to the Mediterranean right in the heart of a cold Swiss valley. This was not gardening, it was environmental engineering. Their profound understanding of botany and soil chemistry was meticulously recorded in detailed books called herbals, which listed the properties and preparation of each plant. This knowledge was a form of biological technology, a life-saving application that blended empirical science with charitable mission. The systematic cultivation of medicine ensured the health of their own community and became a resource for the surrounding populace, turning the Abbey into a center of healing. This drive to harness nature for health finds a powerful parallel in another, more explosive, monastic endeavor. The rhythmic turning of a massive wooden screw transformed an ancient craft into a precise mechanical art. At Klosterneuburg Abbey in Austria, the Augustinian canons engineered a solution to one of viticulture's oldest challenges, the efficient extraction of juice from grapes. Their creation was a monumental mechanical wine press, a device of such power and sophistication it revolutionized an entire regional industry. The core of its design was an enormous wooden screw paired with a long lever beam. This was not a task for one person. Teams of monks would heave on the lever, turning the screw to gradually lower an immense wooden plate onto a vat filled with grapes. The pressure applied was immense, uniform, and far more efficient than the traditional method of stomping or using smaller lever presses. This systematic pressure squeezed out significantly more juice from the same amount of fruit, increasing the overall yield and ensuring a consistency in quality that was previously impossible. For the monastery, this was both an economic and a spiritual breakthrough. Wine was not merely a commodity, it was the blood of Christ in the liturgy, a sacred necessity for the daily celebration of Mass. The demand for a reliable, pure, and abundant supply was a powerful driver of innovation. The Klosterneuburg press met this need perfectly, its design so effective that it became the standard model for wine presses throughout the Danube Valley for hundreds of years. Here, the sacred requirements of the altar directly fueled an invention that then enriched the entire local economy, a perfect fusion of faith and mechanical ingenuity. This mastery of physical forces to shape the world was echoed in another monastic endeavor, one that involved moving mountains of stone. The soaring stone ribs of Durham Cathedral did not just support a roof, they redefined the very physics of prayer. In the early 12th century, the monks and masons of Durham Cathedral Priory achieved a structural revolution that would echo for centuries, the perfection of the stone rib vault. This was not merely a decorative pattern on the ceiling, it was a radical new skeleton for the building itself. The ingenious design channeled the immense weight of the stone roof along the graceful, intersecting arcs of the ribs, which then funneled that load down onto specific, reinforced pillars. This was a masterclass in load-bearing physics, a deliberate and calculated redirection of force that made the entire structure far more stable and efficient. The consequence of this engineering miracle was a new feeling of space and light. By concentrating the weight, the walls between the pillars were suddenly liberated from their primary job of holding up the roof. They could now be pierced with vast, arched windows, flooding the cavernous interior with a celestial glow that had never before been possible in a building of such scale. This was the birth of the Romanesque grandeur that would soon evolve into the Gothic style, transforming the skylines of Europe. The rib vault made the divine feel tangibly closer, using precise stone-cutting geometry and a deep understanding of forces to lift eyes and spirits heavenward. This mastery of monumental form finds a fascinating parallel in the monks' meticulous work on a much smaller, more intricate scale. The same drive for divine perfection that built soaring cathedrals was channeled into the space of a single page. On the tranquil island of Reichenau in Lake Constance, monks transformed the act of writing into a form of alchemy, using technology to make scripture itself radiate with light. Their illuminated manuscripts from the Ottoman period are not just art, they are some of the most sophisticated chemical and mechanical objects of the early Middle Ages. Creating that luminous glow was a rigorous science. These monk scientists developed proprietary recipes for their pigments, grinding rare minerals like lapis lazuli into a brilliant, costly blue, extracting greens from copper compounds, and producing a deep, vibrant red from the crushed bodies of thousands of scale insects. Each color was a separate technological challenge, requiring precise knowledge of binding agents to ensure the pigment would adhere to the parchment without fading over centuries. But the true miracle was the gold. Applying gold leaf was a process of breathtaking precision, requiring a perfectly smooth surface of gesso, specialized delicate tools, and adhesives made from mysterious recipes to make the thin metal cling permanently. The result was a page that did not simply reflect light but seemed to generate it from within, as if the holy words were written in pure divine energy. A single page could take weeks to complete, a symphony of prepared parchment, custom-made brushes, and carefully controlled lighting in the scriptorium to judge the true effect of the metals and minerals. These books were engineered for awe, complex technological objects designed to stun the viewer into a state of reverence. The creation of such beauty was never for vanity. It was a sacred mission to use every tool of science and art to make the divine word literally, physically luminous. This mastery of materials on a miniature scale reveals a profound truth, that the monastic quest for perfection knew no distinction between the monumental and the minute. The true alchemy of Saint-Denis was not in turning lead to gold, but in transmuting common sand into divine light. Under the visionary direction of Abbot Suger in the 12th century, this abbey just north of Paris became a crucible of technological and artistic innovation, giving birth to the Gothic style. Its most revolutionary miracle was the perfection of stained glass on a monumental scale. The monks approached their craft as both chemists and theologians, meticulously experimenting with metallic oxides to achieve a specific spiritual effect. They discovered that adding cobalt to the molten glass mixture produced a deep, celestial blue, while gold chloride created a fiery, ruby red. Each color was a deliberate invention, a product of rigorous empirical testing in the monastic workshop. But creating the colors was only half the challenge. Assembling these pieces into vast, complex biblical scenes required a structural breakthrough. The lead came. These H-shaped strips of lead were used like a flexible black drawing, holding the individually cut pieces of colored glass securely in place to form massive, stable panels. This was the engineering that made the vision possible, a skeletal framework that allowed windows to grow to unprecedented sizes without collapsing. The result was the phenomenon Abbot Suger called lux nova, new light. This was not ordinary sunlight, it was light filtered through a sacred spectrum, painting the interior of the church with vibrant narratives of Scripture. The intended effect was a metaphysical journey, a technological manipulation of the physical environment to provoke a specific spiritual awe, making the divine feel tangibly present in a shower of colored radiance. The recipes and construction methods perfected here became the coveted standard, turning cathedrals across Europe into vessels of luminous storytelling. Just as these monks learned to command the very quality of light, others were perfecting the art of commanding the wind itself. The gentle hills around Fountains Abbey were blanketed with a living, breathing resource. The Cistercian monks here did not simply keep sheep, they engineered them, embarking on a centuries-long program of selective breeding that functioned as a form of early genetic manipulation. With meticulous record-keeping, they tracked bloodlines and fleece characteristics, deliberately pairing rams and ewes to produce wool that was consistently finer, stronger, and more abundant. This was not left to chance. It was a controlled biological science aimed at creating a superior product. To support their vast flocks, they designed an expansive network of outlying farms known as granges. These were not scattered smallholdings but nodes in a highly efficient, centrally managed agricultural system, overseeing thousands of acres of pastureland with a logistical precision that rivaled modern corporate farming. The true engine of their empire, however, lay along the banks of the river Gall. Here, the monks built massive fulling mills where the relentless power of water wheels drove heavy wooden hammers. These hammers pounded the woven woolen cloth, cleaning it of oils and dirt and matting the fibers together to create a thicker, more durable fabric. This mechanization transformed a back-breaking, weeks-long manual process into a rapid, continuous operation. From the selective breeding in the fields to the rhythmic pounding in the mills, Fountains Abbey achieved a stunning vertical integration. They controlled every single step of production, from the raw fleece on the sheep's back to the finished bolt of cloth ready for market. This mastery of the entire supply chain made the Abbey an economic powerhouse, its wealth built not on treasure but on the systematic application of biological and mechanical science. Their success proved that deep faith and formidable business acumen were not just compatible, they could be woven together into the very fabric of a technological miracle. Within the gilded halls of Melk Abbey, a different kind of engine was at work, one that processed information instead of grain. The magnificent library here was more than a storehouse of books. It was a sophisticated machine for thought, powered by a revolutionary information retrieval system. The monks of Melk faced a problem familiar to our own digital age. How do you find a single, crucial piece of information within a vast and ever-growing collection? Their solution was an intricate cataloging and indexing method that functioned as the search engine of the medieval world. They developed a comprehensive system of unique shelf marks, detailed subject categories, and an early form of cross-referencing that allowed a scholar to locate a specific philosophical argument or a particular historical account in minutes, not days. This intellectual architecture was built directly into the physical space, with specific rooms and sections dedicated to theology, law, the sciences, and the arts, creating a logical map of human knowledge. The very layout was designed to facilitate a seamless research workflow, guiding a monk from a general subject to the precise text he needed. This technology of knowledge organization was the invisible framework that enabled the monastery's scholarly mission, allowing theologians to trace doctrinal developments, scientists to reference earlier experiments, and historians to build accurate chronicles. Melk's library was a hard drive of the medieval world, and its indexing system was the sophisticated operating system that made all its data accessible. This fundamental act of organizing knowledge was the critical first step to expanding it, proving that information is only powerful if you can actually find it. Deep in the Scriptorium of Monte Cassino, the mother house of the Benedictine order, the science of healing was being systematically rebuilt. This was not a place of simple faith healing, but a crucible of medical technology where the human body was approached with the same disciplined rigor as a complex machine. The monks here became master synthesizers, gathering the scattered medical knowledge of classical Greece, imperial Rome, and the advanced Arabic world. Their great work was the compilation of massive encyclopedias and practical handbooks, but these were far more than copied texts. They were dynamic tools filled with original observations from the monastery's own infirmary, detailed illustrations of surgical instruments and procedures, and precise recipes for compound medicines that mixed dozens of ingredients. This infirmary was their testing ground, a living laboratory where the theories from ancient scrolls met the reality of disease and injury. A recipe for a pain-relieving salve from an Arabic text would be tried on a patient, its effects carefully noted, and the formula adjusted for greater potency. A described technique for setting a bone would be illustrated with new diagrams for clarity, turning abstract knowledge into a repeatable, teachable process. This cycle of collection, verification, and refinement created a reliable and organized body of medical knowledge that physicians would trust and use for centuries. By transforming medicine from a scattered collection of folk remedies into a structured, text-based technology, the monks of Monte Cassino performed a quiet, continuous miracle. Their work ensured that the science of healing could be accurately passed down, saving countless lives and fulfilling a sacred duty through the most practical technological rigor imaginable. Water itself became a weapon and a wall at the Spanish monastery of Poblet. In a land frequently shaken by political conflict, the Cistercian monks here engineered a hydraulic network of breathtaking ambition, one that served both the peaceful rhythms of daily life and the grim demands of defense. Their system of aqueducts, canals, and cisterns was not merely for industry. It was a fortified circulatory system for the entire monastic complex. The same channels that powered grain mills and supplied the brewery could be strategically diverted in a moment to fill deep, protective moats, creating an impassable watery barrier for any potential attacker. High, thick-walled cisterns were constructed like keeps, massive fortified tanks designed to hold a vast supply of fresh water under siege conditions, ensuring the community would not thirst even when completely surrounded. This was engineering under pressure in every sense, requiring a masterful balance of hydraulic principles. The monks had to calculate water pressure over long aqueduct runs, manage storage capacity for months of isolation, and design gate mechanisms that could instantly reroute flows from peaceful purposes to defensive ones. This holistic integration of utility and security represents a pinnacle of medieval planning. The challenge of a volatile environment did not just inspire a technological solution. It demanded a dual-purpose system where every liter of water had a potential double life for creating bread or for stopping an army. Poblet stands as a monumental lesson in resilient design, proving that the most enduring technology is that which adapts to serve both the workshop and the fortress. Quiet rustle of a new kind of page began not in a library but in a mill. At Saint-Wandrille in Normandy, the rhythmic thump of a water-powered hammer was pulverizing old linen rags into a pulp, pioneering one of the first paper mills in all of Europe. This was a radical departure from the world of parchment. While scribes at places like Bobbio perfected the arduous preparation of animal skins, the monks here were engineering a writing surface from recycled cloth, a material that was both cheaper and far more abundant. The technology itself was a marvel of global connection, a design likely adapted from the advanced paper mills of the Islamic world, which had been perfecting the craft for centuries. Through trade routes and cultural exchange, This revolutionary process crossed into Europe, finding a ready home within the industrious walls of the monastery. The mill's operation was a multi-stage mechanical ballet. Water wheels drove heavy stampers that tirelessly broke down the rags into a slurry of individual fibers. This soggy mass was then suspended in vats of water before being skillfully scooped onto wire mesh screens that drained the liquid away, leaving behind a delicate, interwoven mat of fibers. These fresh sheets were then pressed, dried, and finally smoothed, emerging as the crisp, uniform paper that would soon reshape a continent. The true miracle of Saint-Wandrille was not just in the paper it produced, but in the accessibility it created. Paper democratized knowledge, breaking the monopoly of expensive parchment. Suddenly, the cost of producing a book plummeted. Legal documents, merchant ledgers, scholarly texts, and eventually the revolutionary ideas of the Reformation and the Renaissance could be copied and distributed on an unprecedented scale. This monastic mill was a quiet engine of a revolution, proving that the most profound technological shifts often begin with something as simple as a new surface for a thought. Gears of brass and oak turned in silent devotion to the stars. At the Benedictine Abbey of Saint-Denis, the quest to predict the divine calendar pushed monks to become master engineers of time itself. Their greatest challenge was the calculation of Easter, a movable feast whose date depends on a complex lunisolar cycle, a problem that had baffled scholars for centuries. The solution they engineered was not a simple table of dates, but a physical machine, an intricate assembly of interlocking gears and calibrated dials that could model the subtle dance of the sun and moon across the years. Turning a handle would set the whole system in motion, advancing multiple rings and pointers in perfect synchrony to reveal the date of Easter for any given year, or to forecast the precise timing of a lunar eclipse. This was a cosmological engine, a tangible manifestation of mathematical law. Its creation demanded more than faith. It required a deep, empirical understanding of orbital periods, painstakingly refined through generations of celestial observation recorded within the Abbey's walls. Each gear ratio was a hypothesis about the mechanics of the heavens, tested and verified through the machine's predictive power. These remarkable devices were the direct conceptual ancestors of the great astronomical clocks that would later crown European cathedrals, and they shared the same fundamental logic that would one day guide the first mechanical computers. The monks of Saint-Denis were not just tracking time, they were building a physical model of their universe, quantifying the heavens to honor a sacred schedule, and in the process laying a foundation for the science of computation itself. The stones of Saint-Benoît-du-Lac were engineered to sing. In this modern monastery in Quebec, the very architecture is a technological instrument, meticulously designed to amplify the human voice into something transcendent. The Abbey Church is not merely a building where chant happens, it is a resonant body crafted from centuries of acoustic wisdom. Its vaulted ceiling was calculated with precise mathematical ratios, its walls angled and its floor surfaced with materials chosen not for aesthetics alone but for their sonic properties. These elements work in concert to catch the pure tones of Gregorian chant, to sustain and blend them without the blur of echo, creating a seamless wave of sound that seems to emanate from the space itself. This is acoustic physics in the service of devotion, where every surface becomes part of a sacred amplifier. The monk's goal was to build an immersive sonic environment, to make the liturgy an experience that washed over the worshipper, bypassing the intellect to speak directly to the spirit. This pursuit of perfect resonance is a powerful demonstration of how monastic innovation never truly ceased. It simply adapted, employing modern materials and a deeper understanding of wave theory to fulfill an ancient spiritual yearning. The entire church stands as a testament to the devotional quest to harness an invisible force, to build not just with stone, but with sound itself. And just as these monks learned to command the air with architectural precision, their forebears had long mastered the art of commanding water with equally brilliant systematic force. Rievaulx Abbey orchestrated a river into a symphony of specialized labor. Along the gentle curves of the river Oise, the Cistercian monks did not construct a single monolithic mill. Instead, they engineered a distributed network of smaller, purpose-built workshops, each one a dedicated expert in its own mechanical task. One mill was reserved solely for the rhythmic grinding of grain into fine flour. Another, positioned slightly downstream, focused its crushing power on olives, pressing them into precious oil for both the monastery's kitchen and its lamps. A third housed the relentless trip hammers for fulling woolen cloth, while a fourth processed the crushed bark, known as tan bark, used in the vital craft of leather making. This was not a random collection of water wheels, it was a meticulously planned industrial ecosystem. The true genius of this modular design lay in its resilience and efficiency. If one mill needed repairs, the others could continue their work uninterrupted. Different tasks with different demands could operate simultaneously, all powered by the same river but without interfering with one another. This required a masterful understanding of hydraulics. The monks had to design a system of mill races, the channels that diverted water to the wheels, that could split and manage the river's flow with precision, ensuring each specialized mill received the consistent, powerful current it needed to operate. Rievaulx's model was a breathtakingly early form of industrial zoning and distributed energy use, a concept that modern factories would only rediscover centuries later. Their system demonstrates a profound grasp of industrial ecology, where every component of production had its dedicated place, and the whole network was far more powerful and adaptable than the sum of its individual parts. The meticulous records of Kremsmünster Abbey transformed weather itself into a sacred text. In the Austrian Abbey's Scriptorium, monks did not just note the day's temperature, they began a multi-generational project of environmental observation, creating a sophisticated tool known as a wind rose. This was far more than a simple weather vane. It was a comprehensive geographical and meteorological database, a physical chart that mapped wind direction against temperature, precipitation, and even celestial events. Day after day, year after year, the monks logged this data with devout precision, creating a long-term record of their local climate that was unparalleled in its era. This relentless, disciplined gathering of information was a technological act in itself, a systematic effort to decode the patterns written into God's creation. The practical applications were immediate and profound. By analyzing years of their own records, the monks could identify which wind patterns typically brought rain to their fields, or which seasonal temperature shifts signaled an early frost. This allowed them to advise local farmers on the optimal times for planting and harvesting, directly improving agricultural yields and safeguarding the community's food supply. Their rudimentary weather predictions, born from decades of handwritten data, were a form of early risk management. The wind rose was a testament to a powerful idea that the universe operated on principles of divine order that could be understood through patient, empirical observation. This practice of turning fleeting phenomena into a permanent, analyzable record was a foundational technology for all of modern science. In their quest to read the sky as a sign of God's will, the monks of Kremsmünster inadvertently built the very framework for climatology, proving that reverence for nature could be expressed through the meticulous keeping of a ledger. The mountain itself became the raw material for a prayer carved in stone. At the Abbey of Saint-Michel-de-Cuxa, the monks did not simply build on their Pyrenean peak, they systematically deconstructed it to create their sanctuary. This community possessed a unique advantage, a vast and vibrant vein of pink marble running through the very rock beneath their feet. Rather than hauling stone from distant lands, they established their own industrial quarry, turning the mountainside into a buzzing workshop of extraction and precision. The sheer hardness of the marble presented a formidable challenge, one they met with a powerful technological alliance. They harnessed the force of mountain streams to drive water-powered saws, massive contraptions of wood and iron that used an abrasive slurry of sand and water to slice through the stubborn stone with relentless mechanical patience. Water also powered their drills, creating a rhythmic percussion that echoed through the valley as they bored the initial holes for splitting massive blocks. This was not brute force, it was the application of calculated, sustained hydraulic energy to a problem that would have defeated manual labor alone. Once the great blocks were freed, the true artistry began. The monks developed a specialized arsenal of tools, from fine-pointed chisels for delicate tracing to robust claw hammers for shaping curves, each one an extension of their vision for the stone. Transporting these colossal marble pieces from the quarry face to the rising abbey walls demanded yet another layer of engineering brilliance. They likely constructed massive wooden sledges that could be winched along greased timber tracks, using compound pulley systems to lift and lower the immense weight with controlled, incremental force. This vertical integration was their ultimate mastery, a complete control over the entire chain of production from the unyielding heart of the mountain to the final, polished capital set perfectly in place within the cloister. The technology of stoneworking at Cuxa was a literal embodiment of faith moving mountains, proving that the most enduring monuments are born not from conquering nature, but from collaborating with it, transforming a geological fact into an architectural miracle. Precision gears turned to the rhythm of devotion at Weingarten Abbey, where the monks engineered theatrical miracles for the eyes of the faithful. Their most sacred treasure was a relic believed to be a drop of the holy blood, and its annual procession was not a simple march but a grand spectacle of spiritual theater. For this event, the monastery became a workshop of wonder, creating intricate clockwork automata that blurred the line between machine and miracle. They built mechanical angels, their brass wings poised to sweep upward as internal gears triggered a mechanism that brought a trumpet to their lips, releasing a clear, automated fanfare. They constructed moving platforms that carried the relic itself, slowly rotating and ascending on hidden systems of weights and levers to create the illusion of a heavenly ascent before the crowd. Every movement was a carefully calculated sequence, powered by wound springs and regulated by escapements similar to those in the finest clocks. This was engineering in the service of pure awe, a deliberate fusion of mechanical genius and public liturgy. The goal was not merely to display the relic, but to use technology to make the divine feel tangibly, dramatically present. The creation of such moving sacred art demanded a rare dual insight. The monk engineers needed a profound understanding of physics and geometry to design the gear trains and leverage systems, but they also required deep theological sensitivity to ensure every mechanical motion reinforced the sacred narrative and inspired genuine reverence. The automata of Weingarten represent a fascinating and deeply human branch of monastic technology, where the drive to create wonder was as powerful as the drive to grind grain or tell time. These were machines built not for industry but for the heart, proving that the most sophisticated technology can sometimes be the one that orchestrates a collective gasp of belief. The very air around Saint-Denis Abbey was a potent medicine. While the Cistercian monks of this Provençal valley are famous today for their breathtaking purple lavender fields, their true technological genius lay in capturing the soul of those flowers. They perfected the art of distillation, transforming fragrant blooms into a powerful, concentrated essential oil using intricately crafted copper alembic stills. This was not a simple brewing process. It was a precise chemical technology that demanded a deep understanding of heat and vapor. The monks had to maintain a perfectly controlled temperature, a delicate balance where the volatile oils within the lavender would vaporize without being scorched by the direct flame beneath the copper pot. The rising steam, laden with the flower's essence, would then travel through the still's narrow pipe, known as the swan's neck, into a cooling chamber where it condensed back into a liquid. This liquid separated naturally, with the precious lavender oil floating on top of the floral water, ready to be skimmed off. The knowledge behind this sophisticated apparatus likely journeyed to Provence from the advanced laboratories of the Arabic world, where distillation science was centuries ahead. The monks of Saint-Anc absorbed this global knowledge and applied it with local brilliance, turning a beautiful local plant into an incredibly valuable commodity. This lavender oil became their liquid gold, a versatile product sought after for its medicinal properties in soothing wounds and calming nerves, for its use in perfumes, and as a key trade good that connected the quiet abbey to the wider medieval economy. The process demonstrates a masterful blend of agriculture and chemistry, creating a sustainable, value-added product that leveraged their land to its fullest potential. This was a self-reinforcing cycle of innovation, where the cultivation of the raw material directly fueled the advanced technology that increased its worth, an alchemy of scent that served both the body and the spirit. The silent stones of Altenburg Abbey hold a conversation carved in geometry. Scattered across its walls and pillars are cryptic markings, a secret language left by the stonemasons who built this Austrian marvel. These were not random scratches or simple decorations. They were a sophisticated system of coded notation, a technological script etched directly into the fabric of the building itself. Each symbol, a precise combination of circles, arcs, and intersecting lines, conveyed a wealth of information. A master mason could glance at a mark and understand the exact curvature required for an arch, the specific angle for a vault rib, or even the theological principle that particular shape was meant to embody. This was engineering data and sacred philosophy fused into a single, elegant glyph. Some symbols acted as a signature, a permanent record of which craftsman was responsible for a specific section of stonework, creating a built-in system of quality control and accountability that spanned decades. Other, more complex codes are believed to have functioned as mnemonic devices, physical triggers for remembering intricate structural calculations, or the assembly sequence for a complicated piece of scaffolding. How do you remember a complex geometric formula without a notebook? You carve its visual representation into the very material you are shaping. This language of the stones was a revolutionary form of information technology, a non-verbal communication system that allowed knowledge to be transmitted directly from a master to his apprentices, and even across generations to the masons who would later perform repairs or additions. The codes of Oldenburg represent a hidden layer of intelligence embedded in the monastery's bones, a testament to the fact that the greatest technological breakthroughs are sometimes not the machines we build, but the silent, enduring systems we use to guide our hands. The sun-drenched island of St. Honorat was home to a patient, crystalline miracle. Here, the monks of Leyren's Abbey mastered a technology of elemental patience, transforming the Mediterranean Sea itself into a source of wealth and sustenance through sophisticated saltworks. They did not simply gather salt, they engineered it, constructing a sprawling labyrinth of shallow, interlocking pools that acted like a vast, open-air chemical laboratory. Seawater was guided into the first of these basins, where it would rest under the intense sun, beginning a slow, deliberate journey of concentration. The monks controlled this entire process with the precision of hydrologists, using a system of wooden sluice gates to meticulously regulate the flow from one pond to the next. As the water moved, it grew steadily more saline, with impurities precipitating out at specific stages until, in the final basins, pure sodium chloride crystals began to form, glittering like a field of white diamonds. This was not a haphazard collection of seawater pools. It was a controlled crystallization process, a deep understanding of chemistry written in gates and gradients. The salt they harvested was of exceptional purity, a commodity as vital as it was valuable. It preserved meat and fish through long winters, seasoned daily meals, and found use in the monastery's infirmary for cleansing and medicinal preparations. This quiet, persistent technology guaranteed the community's self-sufficiency, turning a ubiquitous and free resource into the foundation of their economic independence. The true miracle of Larenz was this alchemy of patience, a system that did not fight the elements, but instead collaborated perfectly with the sun and the sea to draw a fundamental treasure from the water itself. The voice of the monastery was forged in fire and bronze. Within the precincts of St. Augustine's Abbey in Canterbury, archaeologists have unearthed the scorched remains of a technological marvel, a sophisticated bell-casting foundry. Here, monks did not simply make bells, they engineered sound itself, perfecting a method known as the lost wax technique to create bronze instruments of breathtaking tonal quality and legendary durability. The process was an alchemical ballet of multiple disciplines. It began with a master craftsman sculpting a perfect model of the bell in beeswax, capturing every curve that would define its future voice. This wax model was then entombed in a thick, custom-blended clay, creating a detailed negative impression. The crucial, nerve-wracking step came next, the firing of this clay mold in a scorching kiln. The heat did two things at once. It baked the clay into a hard, resilient ceramic shell, and it melted the wax model entirely, which drained out through specially designed channels, leaving behind a perfect hollow cavity. This is the moment that gave the technique its name. The wax was lost, sacrificed to create the space for something far more permanent. Then, with the mold still searing hot to prevent the metal from cooling too quickly and forming flaws, the monks would pour a roaring torrent of molten bronze, a glowing orange river of copper and tin, into the cavity. The entire operation demanded a profound synthesis of knowledge. It required metallurgical expertise to achieve the perfect bronze alloy, a grasp of thermodynamics to manage the immense and critical temperatures, and a deep, almost intuitive understanding of acoustics to shape the bell's form so its voice would be both powerful and pure, a single clear note that could carry for miles and last for centuries. The bells that emerged from this fiery birth were far more than religious objects. Their voice became the very heartbeat of the surrounding community, a public utility cast in sacred metal. They regimented the day, calling not just monks to prayer but laborers to the fields and merchants to the market. In times of fire or invasion, their urgent peal transformed into a vital alarm system, a civic technology that protected everyone within earshot. The foundry at St. Augustine's was a crucible where prayer, physics, and public service merged, proving that a single resonant tone, born from fire and precise geometry, could order an entire world. The gentle splash of a carp breaking the surface was the sound of a perfectly balanced system. At Maulbronn Abbey in Germany, the Cistercian monks engineered a landscape of water not for industry, but for life itself, creating one of the most advanced and integrated fish farming systems of the entire medieval world. They transformed their grounds into a cascading series of more than 20 ponds, each one a specialized component in a living, breathing food production machine. This was not a random collection of fishing holes. It was a meticulously planned aquaculture ecosystem, powered by a sophisticated network of channels, dams, and wooden sluice gates that gave the monks absolute control over the aquatic environment. With precise adjustments, they could direct fresh spring water from one pond to the next, flush out waste, and maintain the ideal oxygen levels and temperature for each stage of a fish's life. The upper ponds served as delicate nurseries, safe havens for breeding fish and for rearing the tiny, vulnerable fry. Once the young fish were strong enough, the monks would open a sluice gate, guiding them downstream to the larger, lower fattening ponds. Here, in these expansive waters, the fish would grow to market size on a natural diet, their flesh kept firm and clean by the constant flow of managed water. This system provided a predictable, renewable source of high-quality protein throughout the year, a logistical miracle that was especially crucial for the many fast days on the monastic calendar when meat was forbidden. The true technological marvel of Maulbronn was this holistic understanding of hydrology and biology. The monks were not just raising fish, they were actively managing an entire aquatic habitat, creating a sustainable food source that worked in seamless harmony with the local environment. Their mastery of water for nurturing life stands as a powerful, quiet counterpart to the roaring forges and pounding mills of other abbeys. It reminds us that the greatest monastic technologies were often those that sustained the body as faithfully as the spirit, turning a simple pond into a miracle of renewable abundance. A single thread of devotion connects these 27 forgotten monasteries across the centuries. This was not a scattered series of lucky accidents, but a sustained, systematic project of innovation, a centuries-long mission driven by a unique fusion of faith, discipline, and a profound desire to elevate the human condition. From the Cistercians who redesigned entire river valleys to the Benedictines who built gears to track the stars, these communities were the dedicated keepers of the flame of progress during an era we too often and too carelessly label as dark. Their legacy is not merely in the beautiful ruins that dot the European landscape, but in the very bedrock of our modern world. The systematic knowledge management of a library like Melk's lives on in every digital search engine we use. The empirical, data-driven medicine practiced at Monte Cassino established the foundation for every modern hospital. The controlled breeding programs at Fountains Abbey and the integrated aquaculture at Maulbronn prefigured the agricultural science that feeds nations today. The modular, water-powered factories of Rievaulx laid the logistical blueprint for the Industrial Revolution itself. So the next time you effortlessly flip a light switch, remember the monks who first mastered the power of water and wind. When you glance at the time on your phone, think of the intricate brass gears in a silent scriptorium that first quantified the heavens. Their story is a profound and enduring testament, a reminder that when disciplined curiosity is married to a higher purpose, it becomes the most powerful engine for change the world has ever known. If this journey through the silent workshops of history has illuminated something new for you, we would love to hear your reflections in the comments. And for more explorations into the forgotten corners of our past, be sure to subscribe.